Hello, welcome back to Divinity Said. Today we're going to talk about the motions hearing that just happened with Karen Reed. Now, it ended with the judge saying that something came up that's going to be, what word did she use? Profound? I think that might be the word she used. That's going to implicate the defense. So they're going to meet back in a week and talk about that. Little snippets we got from that were that it's probably ARCCA issues. You might remember ARCCA was the crash reconstruction people that the federal government had hired, and they were able to use them during the trial. This just happened today. Let's listen. Okay, this guy that's standing up, it's the new guy for the state. He's the one prosecuting Karen Reed, and he is getting information from his different requests as they come in. This is some information that he recently got. He's bringing it to the judge's attention. Let's hear.
We then have provided an outline and answers for a direct examination. The Commonwealth did not have the luxury to privilege, did not even know that there was an outline that was being disseminated by this totally independent witness who took no side other than that of the truth.
At the time you did your expert review, Dr. Wolf, and your consultation, you and I had never met.
That's correct.
You did not know who I was.
I did not.
You'd never met Ms. Little.
No.
Mr. Unetti.
No.
Matter of fact, you'd never heard of this case.
That's correct.
You were hired by another agency not connected in any way to the defense. Is that right?
Correct.
And not connected in any way to the Commonwealth. Is that right?
Correct.
Another comment. Would it be fair to say because you had a lot of nighttime visibility work, your cases frequently involve pedestrians? Yes, unfortunately, there is a direct correlation between the time of day and pedestrian fatalities. Statistically speaking, most pedestrian fatalities occur during the evening and night hours. That would have been nice to have. So my specialty in the area of lighting and human factors results in a lot of my cases involving pedestrians. Pretty important stuff in this case.
The professional societies.
Yes.
Describe those, please.
So I'm a member of the Society of Automotive Engineers, SAE. I'm also a member of the National Association for Professional Accident Reconstructionists, the Optical Society of America, and also the Illuminating Engineering Society.
How many cases would you say in your experience in your career have you reconstructed or attempted to reconstruct, you or your team members?
I don't actively track that. If I had to estimate at this point in my career, it'd probably be well over 1,000.
And how many of those 1,000, I know you'd have a number specific, but how many of those 1,000 would you say involved pedestrians as well?
Several hundred. As I mentioned earlier, a great, excuse me, a great deal of my work is in the field of lighting and visibility. So there's a direct correlation between time of day and pedestrian incidents. We see a rise in the evening and night hours just due to drivers having difficult ability to try to perceive and recognize individuals. So I certainly see a lot of pedestrian collisions in my casework. To give you an example of human factors in the field of accident reconstruction, so I do a lot of nighttime visibility and conspicuity work. So to give you an example of that, let's say a driver's driving down the road at night. There's a pedestrian that's crossing the road. So we want to have an understanding based upon that pedestrian's clothing, the headlights of the vehicle, any potential artificial lighting in the area. When does a driver recognize that individual on the roadway? And then we can also look at literature to have an understanding of how do drivers respond based upon the hazard they're presented.
Lighting and human factors result in a lot of my cases involving pedestrians. Pretty important stuff in this case. And then he comments, if you don't want me to say this, that's fine. That's fine. Shh. Don't tell them.
So I do a lot of nighttime visibility and conspicuity work. So to give you an example of that, let's say a driver's driving down the road at night. There's a pedestrian that's crossing the road. So we want to have an understanding.
For context, this is flashing back to Dr. Wolf, one of the ARCCA guys, explaining his expertise and the fact that crashes happen at night, and he is on several different committees or whatever that deal with this. Although the new guy, would have wanted to know. Dude, watch the other trial or pay attention or get a transcript. This that I clipped was all from the first 7 minutes of Dr. Wolf's testimony.
Any based upon that pedestrian's clothing, the headlights of the vehicle, any potential artificial lighting in the area. When does a driver recognize that individual on the roadway?
Shh. Don't tell them.
When you did your analysis and conclusions, well, let me ask it this way. You finalized your report, you and your team, correct?
Correct.
So this is important because the new guy is trying to say that there was bias because he had spoken to Alan Jackson at some point after the report. Jackson, during the original trial, was making it a point that the accident reconstructionists, ARCCA, both of the guys, the other guy's name, I already forgot what it was, but both of them, you know, they got together, they put together their report. The report was made available to both sides. What the state's now trying to say is that it was clear bias because Alan Jackson had reached out to them regarding the report. But the report itself had nothing to do with Karen Reed's trial. It had to do with the numbers, the vehicle, the pedestrian, the crash, the reconstruction of did this person get hit by a car, or did this car impact a person, which they found that it didn't.
That report is contained in a multi-page document that was submitted following your analysis and your opinions and conclusions, right?
Correct.
The defense didn't have anything to do with that, correct?
Correct.
You had never met us, didn't know who we were when you did this.
Correct.
Your work product, the report that you provided, was provided both to the defense as well as the Commonwealth. Is that right?
That's my understanding, yes.
And you were equally available to both sides?
In terms of them reaching out?
Correct.
Yes.
And I called you ultimately after receiving your report, asked if you'd join us and testify, correct?
That is correct.
Now, I'm not saying that undermines the conclusions of ARCCA, or not. I'm not saying they're not qualified witnesses, but it certainly shows some bias.
So that was that. The other issue came up with the Sandra Birchmore case. I'm just going to do a separate video on that so that they can stay digestible and understandable. This guy, although he is going to blame the defense for performing to the audience on their right, which in this case is the media pool, I find this Poindexter guy doing the same thing. It's bizarre because you don't get that vibe from him. But if you know the case and you watched any of the last ones, and you would actually realize that the things he's saying are a surprise to him happened in front of the world to see. So obviously he was busy, and that's fair. He wasn't part of this case, so he wasn't following it. But that's kind of irrelevant here, sir. The fact that you're just getting information that was already available, I can't figure out the point. So anyways, don't forget to share this with your friends. And if this isn't your cup of tea, join me for Saturday morning's Bible study at 7 a.m. live with Squaw Bob, because it's awesome. And we definitely all need a little Jesus. Especially get the stank of these devils off us. But that's just my personal opinion. Okay, stay tuned for the next video on Sandra Birchmore and the connections that this Poindexter guy can't seem to see. We'll talk soon. Bye.